So thank you very much for coming. I'm sure you must have read and anticipated this summer program, this science summer program, and it encapsulates research, education, and mentorship, especially with students who are probably undergraduate students in sciences, in chemistry or industrial chemistry specifically. So I'm glad to have you all here. You must have seen the write-up, and you'd have seen signed, like just below at the end of the write-up, Chief Steward of the Pani World Foundation. So, sir, thank you so much for organizing this program, and we'd like to have you now. Please, let's say something on the chat box welcoming the Chief Steward, the man who is the reason why we are here, who has thought of this special program, especially for undergraduate students. Please appreciate him in the chat box. You're welcome, Paninga. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much once again for joining the call. My name is Paninga Muiliya, and I am privileged to be the Chief Steward of Pani World Foundation. And in case the word is not very familiar to you, it's more like what people would say Chief Executive Officer. I prefer to be Chief Steward because what we do is serve people, we serve the community, we serve our world with value, with the intrinsic value God has given to us, with our purpose, right? And I see myself as the chief steward. So every other person who's working with me, they are all stewards. Okay, so I'm the chief steward of Pani World Foundation and not the chief executive officer. So that's just that briefly. And so, like I was saying, I have had this burden for over a year now. Having this program, and not just this program, but to build it even bigger than what we have currently, because I feel that there is indeed a need to begin to connect young people greatly to their own societies, like what they do, the science they do, the arts they do. Just in case you're not a science student, how can we begin to connect you greatly to society? Because there is so much more than what you are studying within the four walls of the university, right? And to what essence is what you study in class if it doesn't make impact, if it doesn't create value, if it doesn't create results for society? And that's why we're having this program. And like the moderator said, so you would see that, hey, we are having the maiden edition happening with chemistry or the field of biochemistry. That's not because this program is only for chemistry and biochemistry. No. It's like, when you buy pizza, that's just a slice of it. It's not everything. This is more like a slice of the main dish, the main pizza. So we may not be able to have everything at once, but at least we can begin somewhere. And that's why we are beginning with more emphasis in the area of chemistry and biochemistry. So our resource persons are in the field of chemistry and biochemistry, but that does not mean that people from agric, people from physics, people from computer science would not find this helpful, because you want to learn from people's thought processes, right? It's not exactly the technique of their research, but it's the thought process. You want to know exactly, what's this young man doing in the lab and to what end, right? And you are learning from that thought process. And aside from that aspect of the training, there's another aspect that would be mentorship. So you would see on the flyer, research, education, and mentorship. And that aspect of the program is not only for people in biochemistry and chemistry. It's going to be for everybody in the field of sciences. So we are connecting undergraduate students with graduate students across the globe. And as I speak to you now, I have a number of my friends who are very excited, about signing up as mentors on this program. So we would soon begin recruiting such people. And I hope that we will have as many as possible. I don't know how many, but I really don't mind if we can have as many as possible, even if it's the number runs in thousands or even millions. I just want to exaggerate, but to show you that indeed we want to connect undergraduate students with scholars who are doing great research across the globe, so that they will begin to learn their thought processes. And it's going to be like a remote mentorship, because some will be from different parts of the world, of course. So you may be in Africa and you may have a mentor in the US. So you will have remote conversations with the person time to time, depending on the person's schedule. And that's going to be something the person would work at, or you and the person would definitely work at. And that's not going to be so much of trouble to deal with, but you would have conversations with the person as you study, as you progress in your studies, right? And so the person is going to tell you, hey, this is what you should do. This is what you should pay attention to. And they will also connect you with resources in your own area of studies. They'll make recommendations for you. And if you're willing to do advanced research, they will also begin to prepare your mind towards advanced research. That's on PhD level or master's level, depending on where you want to do it and when you want to have that done. So that's the essence of the program. And that being said, I am going to share a few things before we have the guest appearance today. The guest appearance happens to be a brother and a friend, but I have a session before his, and I'm going to be sharing briefly. And then, like the moderator said, if you have questions, you can begin to drop that on the Q&A session. So before I proceed, I want to once again appreciate everybody for joining the call. And I also want to appreciate my team members. This is not possible without my team members. People are working behind the scene. People are, sleepless nights. People are having to ask questions. People are having to burn the midnight candle, like they would say. People are spending time, energy, and resources to make this work. And the likes of Godson, Silas, in fact, some of them are undergraduate students, right? Our goal in Paninga Foundation, or our drive, is leadership development for young people. So we give them a chance to even design programs like this, design and lead the program. We just give you the support. We give you the attention. And so undergraduate student designed this program. And I want to say a big shout out and a big thank you to all the program leaders and all the supporters of this program. So I am going to share my slide right away. So today I wouldn't be talking much about the science that I do, but I'll be setting the foundation for the conversation on this program. And I'm going to be beginning with what I title what is going on. So that's exactly what is going on in the academic system, what is going on in our system of education in Africa, what is going on in our system of education in Nigeria, and in fact, even to a good extent, what is going on in the research system or the academic system, the education system in other parts of the world, not just Africa. Because I remember when I shared this idea with a friend of mine who is an American, and he told me how he believes that this idea is equally relevant to the US audience. I'm like, well, that's a great thing. And I think I would like us to equally have this done, extend the audience even to other parts of the world. So what exactly is going on? That's what I'm going to be talking about today. So I want to begin by introducing what I call the chemistry, the system design. Every system is designed. Every system, like the birds have a design, human beings have a design, plants have a design. So the system of education equally has a design. So, and I'm using some chemistry concept to explain what I'm about to talk about. So in chemistry, you would have reagents reacting, right? You will have reacting species. A and B would react to give you C. And in many cases, you will have a catalyst to speed up the reaction or to decide to an extent the kind of products you're going to get, the quantity or the amount of the product you're going to get. So in our education system, we have exactly this kind of, reaction happening. And in this case, A is you as an undergraduate student, as a scholar, even in business, whatever it is, A is you. So, but when you come fresh, you come excited, and you get your admission, you are excited about your course of study. You come, you have this optimism. I remember when I was in my first year, several people were holding parties, they were celebrating, they were dancing because they are now first year undergraduate student. And so there's that excitement. You come new, right? You come with a clean plate. But then in that system of education, you have people happening to you. You have things happening to you. So you have the curriculum. You would start attending classes, and so you will receive lectures or lessons from professors. You would receive trainings from people, and even your environment will begin to have effects on you. So you came into the system, and then something is beginning to happen to you. And then C is who you eventually become, because that's the idea. The idea is that in 4 years, in 5 years, or in 6 years, as the case may be, you would eventually become something. If you come into the system, like I said, something is definitely going to happen to you, and you will become something. And then Z is the catalyst, and the catalyst could be what exactly the professors, or maybe you, what exactly you're doing to speed up the reaction, right? I remember I had lectures that were not in the timetable. One of our professors will have class early as 7 a.m. in the morning. The idea is he wants to speed up our learning process. And you could equally do some things to either speed up your learning process or speed up what is happening in the system, or at least to an extent decide how it's going to go, right? Because that's what catalysts do. So Z is the catalyst. So, but before I even proceed from here, I want to play a video and get your responses. I want to know what you think about this video. So I'll stop sharing the slide and quickly share this. It's a video I saw some weeks ago of a young man who is, I guess, preparing for his exams.
Whereby two molecules of alkanals or alkanones having alpha hydrogen atom combined in the presence of dilute base to give beta hydroxy alkanals or alkanones. In partial condensations, in this process of reactions, aromatic alkanals such as benzaldehyde are converted to beta hydroxy alkanoic acid to give aldehydrate to give alpha beta unsaturated alkanone.
Okay, so I guess you've seen this. Please, what do you think about this video? What do you think is wrong about this? Or maybe right. If you think something is right, you can share. But my interest in what do you think is wrong in this, with this whole idea, the idea in the video, with what you saw in the video, what do you think is wrong? Please, if you can, use the chat. I want to get feedback from you before I proceed. I would really appreciate your feedback. Use the chat. What do you think is wrong? What do you think maybe the young man is missing? What is happening that, okay, the learning system is wrong? Somebody, Joseph, thank you very much. The learning system is wrong. More responses. My eyes are on the chat. He is after the grade, which is too bad. Grade responses so far. Maybe two or three more responses. I will proceed from there. He probably hasn't been. Okay, he probably hasn't seen an arcanon. Brilliant. That's equally another great response. I remember when I had to cram histochemistry in my third year, it demonstrated a failure of understanding. Great. He is particularly cramming chemistry, which is not supposed to be so, I guess. Amazing. I think I even like to hear more responses. I like the kind of things I'm seeing on the chat. Indeed, those are brilliant and very correct responses. And that's the idea behind what we are trying to address now, because he seems to be under pressure or duress of exams. He's doing what he knows best. Amazing. He's doing what he knows best, memorization. And okay, the guy didn't understand the whole concept. He was just trying to pass his chemistry exams. Beautiful responses. And please keep the responses coming. And I'm going to keep sharing my screen now, but I really do appreciate the responses so far. So you all are correct. There's a big trouble with the video and the whole concept. And so what is happening, you will notice I've used A and B. Again, I said A is you, B is what happens to you, right? Like the professors, the system, the environment. So what happens, the kind of relationship students share greatly with their professors is that kind of R2 and R1 relationship, where R1, you simply receive. So you're receiving from the professors, you're receiving from the people around you, from the environment. So you get to receive lessons in class. And then the system is designed in such a way that you're expected to return what you have received. So, and that's where you have to read, which is good, of course. You read and prepare for exams. And then after like a month or two, you write tests, you write exams. The system expects that what you have received, you simply return. And that's exactly what the young man is doing. And so by the end of the day, trust me, the guy would have succeeded in having an A. But would you say that he has understood the concept so well? I doubt. By the end of the day, he would have succeeded in returning what he has received. And he may even make a first-class degree. But you would praise the guy for making a first-class degree. And I'm not saying this is wrong, by the way. But then, what has he created with his first-class degree? What has he made with his first-class degree? How how great of a success or a great story it is that he has made a first class degree. So there's this R1 and R2 relationship, and that seems to be the system for several years, or the way learning is conducted in many places. And what that produces is what I call compliance or obedience. So you comply to the system, you comply to the set principles of instruction, set instructions, guidelines, rules rather. There's that compliance, and that's exactly what is produced. But meanwhile, there is another part of this whole conversation that I call the other R. And so I said the 3 R's, right? The first R is that R, where you receive, but the second R is you return. But there's yet another R, which is not taught many times in our system. And it is what I call re-engineering, or maybe readjustment. So instead of simply receiving and returning, you now begin to look beside you and above you. So you look left, you look right, and you're trying to now explore other ways. You are beginning to ask questions like, what exactly? Or you're asking questions like, what else? How else? What is happening? How else can this be done? So, and by the time you do this, what you would notice is that curiosity you have as a child is preserved. Because when you were born, you were curious. As a baby, we were very curious. But over time, we began to lose that curiosity. But when you begin to explore other ways, you look left and right and begin to ask questions, your curiosity is preserved. And so you keep asking questions. Like I said, you look behind you, you look before you. And I'm not saying literally looking up and down, but you begin to seek to explore ways to even properly understand what is happening and to make good sense of what is happening. And so as this continues to happen, the arrows, you are seeking ways, exploring ways, which is beyond the R1, R2 relationship. Your curiosity is not only preserved, your curiosity also begins to grow, which is good for you and equally good for the system. And what I now call a wonder working system, because this system, this R1, R2 relationship is not a system that works or creates effective results. We need results that are beyond simply having a degree, right? You need a result that is beyond simply having good grades, because that has not helped us so much. If you check the statistics now, we have millions of people who are unemployed. And there's going to be more millions of people who would join the pool of millions we have today as unemployed folks. So how exactly is this R1, R2 relationship helping us? I do not think it's helping us properly. And of course, you can imagine a country like Nigeria or a continent like Africa with so much population, but I do not think we have 10% of the population who are creating value with their relationship, with their expertise. Why? Because we have this R1, we have exalted this R1, R2 relationship for too long, and we are not exploring the R3 part of the equation so well. But in the working system, what you would have, again, I'm using a chemistry concept, is the same A and B, which is, these are all elements of the system, right? So you have A, B reacting to form C and D. In this case, you have the elements reaching beyond their echo chambers. So as A, the circle represents what that set of rules, the set of instructions that you receive as a student, or the set of instructions you receive as a scholar or even a business person. But you begin to reach beyond your echo chamber and ask questions, because there is more outside of what you receive. There is more outside of what you know. There is more, even the person who is giving you information, right? The scholar, for instance, the professor, for instance, there is more outside of what the person knows. And so by the time you begin to reach beyond what you have around you, and the person who is giving you instruction is equally reaching beyond what is around them, you're beginning to produce something that is going to be very effective. And that's kind of the system that equally works, permits and embrace rejection. It embraces rejection and questioning of all ideas. And what I mean is that A is very comfortable with rejection. So you are rejected. Not you, but your idea is rejected. Your idea is questioned. Your concepts are questioned. And B is equally comfortable with his or her ideas being questioned, being rejected. Because it's not about respecting an idea so much. It's not about glorifying an idea. It's about finding what I call the next big thing. So the system is designed in such a way that from the beginning, what you want is the next big thing. You know that this is working, right? But you're looking out for the next big thing, because every product is limited. I think iPhone 15 is currently, very soon they will be releasing iPhone 15. But you can imagine the period of time between 14 and 15. It's not a long period of time. Even S22 and S23, it's not a long period of time, because there is something in that product that is missing. In fact, there are many things missing in the product. And so by the time the manufacturers find or figure out something else to add and make it better, it becomes another product. So something is missing in what you have today. Something is missing in that idea. Something is missing in the concept. So a good system, or a wonder working system, is such that it's designed, even from the beginning, embraces the next big thing. It's looking out for the next big thing. You're hunting for the next big thing. And you see that happening even in businesses. Today we have Instagram, and now we have Thread, that it's supposedly a rival for Twitter. I mean, I don't know how much of use it is. I don't know how much people are using it currently, but then the idea is that people are looking out for the next big thing. So even in AI, for instance, you see people having AI products from different parts of the world. China is competing. They are coming out with great products to rival the US's idea. People are doing amazing things, and they're looking out for what exactly is the next big thing and how can I package it, right? And by the time this system works in this way, you would now produce C, and C is now in red, because this time is not simply who you become from the R1, R2 relationship. This time, it's what I called another you. There's a story that's told in the Bible of Samuel becoming another man. And you also see the same story with Saul, who became Paul. And that's the idea, is that by the time the elements in the system, reach beyond their environments, their echo chamber, they are so comfortable with questioning their ideas and also receiving critiques or criticism. They are looking out for the next big thing. You are equally doing the same. You would now have another you. This time it's not just you, it's another you, someone different, someone unique. And it's not going to be just you. There's going to be more results in the system, because we are not just simply looking out to graduate a student, but we are looking out to make someone, right? And then equally have more. And by more, it could be development for Africa. By more, it could be development for Nigeria. By more, it could be some big ideas that we've not seen before. And that's a wonder working system. So I guess you may now be asking, so what now? I have outlined problems already, but what should we be focusing on right now? And so, first of all, I think we should begin to find and understand the underlying problem of every concept. Every concept learned in any class, if you're learning, say, business, if you're learning, say, chemistry, if you're learning biology, if you're learning physics, every time you learn in class, your teachers present you with concepts. What you should begin to do is to find and understand the underlying problem behind the concept. So if it's, for instance, acid-base reaction, what exactly is the underlying problem? If it says synthesis of natural products, what exactly is the underlying problem? Because if you don't understand the problem, you would simply be receiving information, and what you would do by the end of the day is return, right? But we want to see that you really understand what's happening. By the time you understand the underlying problem, you appreciate the science you are doing, you appreciate that learning process, because at least you know that this is really important. You're trying to solve a problem. And then next is you start asking the right questions. Well, it's important to ask questions to understand what you're studying in class, but there are bigger questions to ask. And you can ask, in my own opinion, it should be questions that are first addressed to others and then secondly addressed to you. So if you're asking other questions, if you're asking, say, the professor a question, you should be asking questions like, what kind of invention has been made and how? And then equally ask about the relevance of the idea. You're learning an idea, a concept, ask of the relevance of the idea, ask of the importance of the idea. Because if an idea is not important, should you be learning it? If a concept has no relevance, should you pay attention to such a concept? I do not think so. But why this is important for you to ask is because if peradventure B in the reaction, which is what is happening to you, is not paying so much of attention to the relevance of the idea, you should not do the same. You should ask B questions like that. What's the relevance of the idea? And if you're not getting the answer from B, you have to ask somewhere else, right? And that's why I spoke about reengineering earlier on. I spoke about readjustment, right? You explore ways around you. And then you also ask yourself, this time you want to be you want to pay much of attention to what's happening around you. And so you ask questions like, if past inventors, for instance, the person who invented, let's say, penicillin, if the person was in your day-to-day, what would he or she do differently using available resources and tools? The person who invented Twitter or the person who invented Instagram, whatever it is, what exactly would they do differently today using the available tools and resources they have? And then how can you even make it better? This is a very important question to ask, because you are not just looking out for problems to solve, you're really looking out for how to solve those problems. And you see, if you don't ask the right questions, you wouldn't get the right answers. So, and aside from that, connect with and contribute to the world around you and beyond you. So, you see, our world today, we are blessed with technology, and with technology, you can connect with people even beyond your environment. There are people who are doing outstanding research, that doing great work in your field, and they're in different parts of the world. They're on LinkedIn, they're on Twitter, they're on Instagram. What you should be doing is to be connecting with such people and making contributions to their work. So you are exposing yourself to the world. See, each time you make a comment on social media, consider it as a global stage. You're making a comment or saying something that the world can see, because the person who made the post will not be the only person who can see it. The person who comments, other people who make comments can see it. There are people who would someday search their post and they will be like, oh, who is this guy who has made such a brilliant comment? But that would not happen if you think a comment is just a mere comment. A comment is an opportunity to make a good impression. So you want to connect with people, make brilliant comments on their work so that you can start leaving impressions on them. You leave impressions on the people within that community. But you don't only connect, you equally make contributions. So you see, your idea could not make so much of a sense, but it's good to at least throw it out. Just say it. Someone would say, oh, I think this is better. If you don't say it, you wouldn't even get the chance to know whether you can make it better or not. So while you connect, make contributions to their work. So read their work, pay attention to that, and do same even with the people around you. And while you do this, I have another icon here to show that you can be in Nigeria, for instance, and connect with people from different parts of the world. And you can get to that place where the people you know people that you know. So you have this connection. Oh, let's say you have John. You have John in the US. You have Akin in Germany. But then John, Akin. Or let's say John, Akin, and then John and Akin knows each other. So you see that kind of connection. You're building a great community already. But there's a part where you may know John and know Akin, but John and Akin do not know each other. So that's where the first icon comes from. So, but if the second one does not happen naturally, you can equally make that happen deliberately. Because if you look at for the people's work, you would see that they are mentioning other works, right? So maybe I make a post and I'll mention, oh, Coach Bobby, or maybe I mention Coach Z. Then you go check who the particular person is and you read the person's work. And next time I make such a post, you make comments maybe from insight you gain from Coach Bobby's work. So by the time I see it, I'll be like, oh, this person equally knows Coach Bobby. See, you're beginning to make contributions and you easily connect with such persons. And this is not just in science, by the way. This I believe applies to business and even anything you do, because the more people, relevant people you have in your network, the more you know and the more capacity you build, right? And then I want to close very soon by saying that you are not a moth. I was reading about this insect, I think it was 2 days ago, that it uses light to navigate its way, right? And so what that means is there are cases where it can move itself into fire, like literal fire or flames, and think that that's light, because you can create an artificial light and it may be dangerous, it may be harmful, but it's going to drive itself there because it uses light to navigate. But you are not a moth, and I'm saying this to say that you can be driving yourself towards fame or towards flame, because you can have a beautiful flame, you can have a beautiful fire. And what we currently have now, that R1, R2 relationship, in my own opinion, it's a beautiful fire, very beautiful, but it's fire because it's not working. So you want to ask questions and not simply take directions from, just like the insect would do, simply take direction because you see light. Someone comes up to say, this is what to do, and you simply follow. Maybe something is developed, they say, this is what should be, and you simply follow. No, You are not a moth. You are human. You have the ability in you to question every idea, question every concept. And that's what you should be doing. Otherwise, you will drive yourself to ruins. You will drive yourself to something you don't even know. And you will drive yourself to the problem we are facing today. But we want to begin to address such problems, right? That's why we are having this session. So that's going to be it for me. And like we said, if you have questions, you can drop that on the chat. Thank you very much for listening to me. Once again, I'm Paninga Muiliya, and you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Please, can we appreciate our chief steward using the chat box? Thank you so much, Paninga. I think we got one or two. No, this should be more than one or two, because all she was going through my mind was, I wish I had something. I wish I had someone direct my paths. That's like not everybody. Though, since we are restricting ourselves from speaking, I will just say a few things while we wait for our second speaker, Ambassador Odinaka, to join us. He said something. He said that we are going towards fame or flame. And I just want to encourage us, because some of us might feel like in the situation we found ourselves in the various countries we are in, probably in Africa, as undergraduate students specifically, the conditions of learning might not be so favorable, but there are people that have gone through this. Okay, I know our fathers had better educational systems. Yes, they had better classrooms, they had better equipment. And then at the moment, as undergraduate students across Africa, across the world, especially in Nigeria, let me use Nigeria as a case study, because this is where I just recently graduated from. I completed my undergraduate studies in chemistry. So yes, it might not be so favorable, because there are times that basic practical equipment were not available and the likes. And this is chemistry, this is sciences. I think I'm always encouraged when I see people like Paninga, because they have also gone through the system in this country, and they are up there. They are where they are right now. So I think our conditions or our situations should not hinder us from actually reaching there, for actually striving to be the best that we can be. So, okay. So yes, so please don't restrict yourself. Don't allow your background to determine what you should be and what you push. You shouldn't hinder you from achieving your dreams. For really going for it. Because I tell you, people have had worse situations and they are doing amazing well. So yes.
Patricia, let me add to what you just said. If you're coming from Africa, for instance, you should really be preparing yourself to do like 2 or 3 times of what other persons are doing from other parts of the world. You see, and then even in those parts of the world, there are people who are very complacent because, say, the system is already working, right? Or maybe they have, to a good degree, what works, or a good system. So they become complacent. But you're coming from a place where the system doesn't work as it should, and you understand the need for a good system. So you should be doing 2 things. Number one, really prepare yourself to do 2 or even 3 times more what other persons from other parts of the world would do. And to be honest, you would even have a privilege. You will have an advantage because you are full of energy. You are full of drive. Because what you're looking for is to desist from driving yourself towards fire, right? Like we said, you're driving yourself towards value. You're driving yourself towards good new insights. You're driving yourself towards new opportunities, privileges. You're driving yourself towards creating something big. And you have so much of a drive because you've endured pressure. And pressure does so much, right? Gold has to pass through fire. Well, it's not the kind of fire we should pass through, unfortunately. But then gold once passed through fire, would produce something really beautiful. Crude will have to go through fire before you can get fuel, before you can get all the other side products that we use today. You can imagine that fuel is expensive in Nigeria, for instance, but it had to pass through fire, so to say. If it had not passed through fire, you wouldn't have fuel. And that's the privilege we have. And again, I'm not justifying or glorifying the kind of pressure, the kind of pain, or the kind of unhealthy circumstances we go through in our own parts of the world. That's not the case. But I'm saying because we've gone through that, we have the chance to really do so well if or when we eventually get ourselves to other parts of the world. And even before we get to other parts of the world, we can begin to do from where we are so much of relevant work that will be interesting to the people from other parts of the world. And when you begin to use, the platform you have to connect with persons, share value with other people, you will get an invitation to the big stage, honestly. And that has happened to several people. They get that invitation to a big stage or a bigger stage. I saw a post like several months ago of a 16-year-old boy who was employed by an airline, I think in Italy or so. The guy is a programmer. He's a programmer from Nigeria. So you can imagine a teenager, 16-year-old boy. And I think I saw his video on YouTube that he started writing codes when he was 9 or so, either 9 or 8 years old. So you can imagine. But that happened from Nigeria, right? So it's going to be, for you, it's going to be like from Nigeria to the ends of the world. It's going to be from Africa to the ends of the world.
Our next speaker is Ambassador Odinaka Kingsley Obeta. I want to be sure. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you so much, guys. The floor is yours, Ambassador Odinaka.
Thank you so much, Patricia. Thank you. It's such a privilege to be here. I'm super excited. So I must apologize first of all because I had my meetings were overlapping today, so it was quite difficult for me. But I had already made the commitment to be here on this session. I'd made the commitment to show up here and have a conversation with the team, even if it is for a few seconds. I know that this is very, very important for you, and I don't take this for granted. So thank you so much, Pani World Foundation, for first of all thinking about putting this idea together, because one of the challenges we have is the fact that we have too many problems around us, but then we lack an idea, we lack a concept on how to go about solving this challenge. Now, being able to identify this challenge and then work on it is a very, very serious opportunity that has been created, So I don't take it for granted to be here to share a bit of my experience and then to be able to contribute the little that I can towards this initiative. Thank you so much for having me on the science program. Please, I would like that you confirm that you can hear me, Patricia, before I go ahead. Okay. Thank you so much then. So Odinaka Kingsley Obeta is my name, just in case you probably are meeting me for the very first time. I'm a trained and licensed biomedical scientist, and then I'm very passionate about solving problems. Very passionate about creating solutions. So, and I don't take an opportunity to share the little that I know for granted. I am very committed towards sharing knowledge. I believe strongly that knowledge is meant to be shared and not hoarded. One of the key things I think is relevant for tonight's conversation is for you to first of all note that it is a privilege and a very strong opportunity that you have to be science-oriented. I know what I'm saying. Forget the fact that I'm a biomedical scientist. I know how the journey towards deciding whether to be to study sciences or art or social science came about for me. It was quite a lot of, a lot of work. And why I'm saying this is because I know quite a number of us on the call probably had to go through the same, stress before coming to the final decision that this is what I want to do. You know very well that when you were probably in secondary school, that it is always believed that the guys who go for sciences are usually the most intelligent, even though that is not 100% correct. It is always believed that persons who go for sciences are usually the most intelligent, and that the people who go for art are not so intelligent, but the guys who go for social sciences are maybe the second in the order of intelligence. But then that is not true anyway. But what I'm saying is, the prestige that is accorded to persons who study sciences. So it should point to you that is a privilege and an opportunity for you to be doing what you're doing right now. There's a part to being a science student or being a science professional or being a medical professional or an engineering professional or being a professional in any aspect of the sciences. There is a concept that a lot of young persons, especially across the African continent, are yet to understand when it comes to, reading or studying sciences. And this is exactly what I have chosen to share with you in the few minutes that we're going to be spending together. What am I saying? The idea behind studying sciences is to contribute towards the growth and development of society. That is the foundation for why science as a program is established. During the times of the likes of Albert Einstein, during the times of Michael Faraday, during the times of Thomas Edison, during the times of mention all the great scientists you can mention, Galileo, and a lot of them, right? During their time, in their era, science was about solving the problems of society. Science was about making things better. Science was about creating better solutions. Science was about creating better ways or mechanisms through which things can be done. Science was about waking up today and creating an innovation that will make tomorrow better or make tomorrow easier, right? So this is the foundation on which science was built. It's quite unfortunate and it's very sad that in our society today, people who go to study sciences don't do it because they want to solve a problem. They rather do it because they want to make money. For some, it becomes a motivation. It's not as if that is bad in its entirety, but then that is only a part of the equation. You are missing out on every other component that makes up the equation, right? People go to study sciences just because they want to have the certificate and prove a point. Some people go to study sciences and, they venture into causing more harm to the society than good. This is a very serious issue. So it's a heart-to-heart conversation we're having. You're already in the science summer program. And whether you like it or not, this program is going to expose you to the concept of research, and is going to create, the problem-solving aspect of your life that you never knew existed. But what my responsibility is today is to share with you how important it is for you to really, make deliberate effort towards using the knowledge you have towards solving a problem. It is critical that you see your responsibility in the society as a scientist, as a vanguard. You are a vanguard into society. You are a vanguard to society. You're supposed to protect, preserve, and improve the interest of the society. That includes be it plants or animals, because I'm very much aware that we have persons from the veterinary science, we have people from chemistry, from biochemistry, we have biomedical scientists, we have persons studying medicine and surgery, or persons who are medical doctors. Most likely, you can't rule out everybody in the science program, who is in the summer science program, is opportunity to be here. So, what am I going to share with you? When I started my journey in sciences, the interest for me was to solve a problem. Some of us had the privilege to have this orientation very early, which is why we're able to make the level of impact we've been able to make within the short time that we found ourselves in the space, right? And this is the idea I'm still going to be sharing on this call. When I started my journey in sciences, I was a very creative fine artist. I could draw with a pencil, draw someone neatly, like the way you're sitting, I could draw you straight up. I could paint a picture, right? In my secondary school, I was that good that everybody thought I would go for art. However, I was exceptionally good as well in sciences. I was also exceptionally good in social sciences. So, you know how parents will always influence the decisions that you make. For those of us who are in the African continent, know exactly, if our worst case scenario, if you're in Nigeria, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Your father or your mother will always tell you to go and study medicine because they feel that is the only thing in the sciences that can use us. So there's even discrimination even in the sciences. So it's not enough that you're a science student. I'm already telling you that you should be proud to be a science student, or you should be proud to be a scientist, or to be contributing to science, right? But then there's already discrimination. There's even discrimination in the sciences, right? So I was one of those who went through that puzzle of whether to do art or science and all that. And we finally resolved. My mom said, well, people who go to sciences are people who are intelligent. So look at your results. You're smart. Don't go and waste your brain in arts. And I'm like, okay. So at a point while I was fighting for too much, she said, see, if you want to prove yourself, if you know what you want to prove yourself, go and do this science. So the initial interest for going into science was to go and prove myself. To go and prove that I know what I'm doing and I'm really the one getting the grades I was getting in school. Not that anybody did not believe. It was only my mom who had a different idea. She felt that is the only way out. A lot of decisions before coming to the conclusion that this is what I want. So I eventually went into sciences, but then before making that decision, I had a thought. I realized that I was very expressive. I could communicate very well. I could do so many things. I was good at accounting. So I already more like know the arts and the social sciences. However, science is abstract. Science requires you to carry out research. Science requires you to mix this chemical and that chemical. Science requires you to know mathematics. Science requires you to be creative in your thinking. You need to critically think before making decisions. So I felt like this is not something you can easily find in any day. So let me go for science for this reason. So when I went into sciences, started studying medical laboratory sciences in the great University of Jos, a lot of ideas started to unravel themselves every single day. One fateful day, I thought about the impact of malaria across Nigeria and even across the African continent. I thought about it because I had volunteered for a World Malaria Day program a year before that year I was having this thought. And one thing came to mind. I said, if every year Nigeria can lose up to 90,000 people from malaria, if every year Nigeria loses up to 90,000 people, including pregnant women and children, from malaria, and I'm a medical laboratory science student, and I'm studying medical parasitology, how can I use the knowledge of medical parasitology to solve this problem, even if it means saving one life, even if it means saving one person? So I was just thinking, this was not a thought inspired by my professors in school or inspired by me. This was just me thinking, trying to see how I can practically use the knowledge I'm getting to implement and solve a problem, right? And in the course of that thought, I started coming up with a lot of ideas. Of course, I needed help from a couple of friends. A couple of my friends had to show up at the spot. I had to call this person. I said, I know you can do this. You can be a graphic. You can do this. You can do that. Can you come to the house? Can you meet us here? Can we? And we started to build a community of people who are going to be conscious about the fight against malaria. We started to build a community of people who were ready to really contribute the little they can towards the fight against malaria. And that community eventually became Block Malaria Africa Initiative. Now, in the year 2019, we had carried out a very, very critical, what do you call it? A very, very critical project in one of the communities in Plateau State. In Nigeria that really impacted the lives of a lot of persons in the community. We estimated the impact of that project to be about 30,000 people. It was massive. That is the project where we, provided medical intervention to about 1,003 people. We've done far even more than that number, like going forward. We've done far more than that number, right? And you could see people saying, thank you, it's because of you that I got this medication. I've been sick for how many days now, and I don't have money to go to the hospital. I've been trying to do this. I don't know how to go about it. Like a lot of things. It is critical. So it's beyond you having the knowledge. It's beyond you knowing. For me, I had to ask myself, I've been taught medical parasitology and I've built interest in medical parasitology as a medical laboratory scientist. What can I do with this knowledge that I've gained? So that question was what bettered, the thought to identify the existing challenges around me, right? And when I was able to identify the existing challenges around me, I picked up one that I was going to build a passion around, and then I focused on it, right? I focused on it. So that was very critical. And today, we've been able to do so much more than helping one community. We've been able to help Nigeria as a country. We've been able to help Africa as a continent. And we are still in the verge of making diverse levels of contribution towards fighting malaria at the continental level, right? So it is very important that whatsoever knowledge you have right now, it doesn't matter which program you're in. It doesn't matter what you're doing right now. What are you using the knowledge for right now? What are you doing with the knowledge right now? This is a very critical question. What problem are you solving? The Science Summer Program is going to provide you with opportunities for research. That is guaranteed. What are your intentions for this knowledge about research that you're going to get? Are you just going to learn about research and sit down and not do research? See, one of the challenges that we suffer in Africa, in fact, in the field of research, this is one of the challenges that I myself have suffered as a researcher. The challenges I've suffered is that we lack real-time local data in Africa. A lot of countries in Africa lack real-time data. Rwanda is doing a lot of work in that regard in order to mitigate that gap. They're empowering young people in the science program to carry out research, young people in the art programs to carry out research that across the communities in Rwanda, so that they can come up with real-time data. I'm seeing Kenya do the same as well. And a couple of other countries are doing the same. South Africa is already working on that long before, right? I'm seeing countries like Botswana make a lot of effort. Namibia, they're making effort. But Nigeria, for instance, most likely because of the large populations we have, it's been a lot of work. Now we have a platform like this that is coming in to support us, to help us make this effort, right? And then help us utilize the knowledge we've had and then translate it into real-time information that can really support us, support the growth and development of the nation. It is opportunity for us to really take advantage of it, right? So I want you to start thinking that while you are in this program, what are the existing challenges around you that science can solve, that the science that you know can solve? It doesn't matter whether you're making a 1% contribution to the solution. It is a little drop of water that flows consistently that ends up filling up and giving you a bucket of water. Remember that, right? So it is critical that you need to start contributing right now. You need to start contributing right now. Because the tomorrow you're waiting for might not be there. That is the thing. I found myself in several conversations with young people like myself where we talk and then somebody said, there's this idea I wanted to start. Remember, there's this problem in social place. I want to look at how I'm going to solve. I thought about how I'm going to do this, do that. And in my mind, I'm saying, so why did you not do it? Because I can only imagine between that time you didn't do it to now, how many persons would have been affected by that problem that is still existing. Today, we say that every 1 minute, a child dies from malaria somewhere in the world. Every 1 minute. And this is something I've become so conscious of. So every time I'm asking myself, what contribution am I making right now to the fight against malaria that is capable of solving or saving the life of one child? So as little as that, mind you, that one child could be your brother, that one child could be your sister, that one child could be your cousin, could be someone you know. I've lost friends to malaria, right? I know people who have died from malaria, and that is the reason why I don't want to see that repeat itself again. I know malaria is preventable, malaria is treatable, is a disease that 1,500 ACT can address. Why should people die from it? To the tune that Nigeria as a country record over 80,000 deaths till date from the disease is totally unfair and uncalled for. But I'm doing what I can in my own capacity to preserve and save the lives that I can save with the little knowledge of science that I have. So, if you can't be in the forefront, like some of us, to carry out medical outreaches, to carry out campaigns, to draft out policy documents and do a lot of those things, can you use your knowledge, right, to carry out research and publish this research so that someone who is also building the research in the area where you've worked on can come up with, it can use your data to come up with better solutions. Like, so that some of us who are the practical people in front of the public health space can find some of those local data that you've worked on to prove that a solution to this problem exists and somebody is already doing something about it, right? This is very, very important, and it's something I want you to take on. Okay? So identify that one challenge around you that you can solve. That one challenge that your science or the science you know can solve. Go for it. Make the effort you can. Build a team if possible. Collaborate amongst yourselves. Science, nobody in the science field survive on their own. There's always collaboration. Create a platform for collaboration. Collaborate and interact with people. Find like-minded people who are interested in your research, who are interested in the thing you're working on, who are interested in your project. Collaborate with them. Work on bigger projects together. You are stronger together. You are bigger together, right? Ask a lot of questions and seek mentorship. You have a lot of people who are going to be sharing with you in the course of the summer program. Commit to asking questions. Reach out to these people on social media. Engage them. Find a way to build quality relationships with them. That was just what I was talking about in the session I had in the Impact Training Room Fellowship that is done with the fellows. I just had a session with the fellows, before joining the session to have this conversation with you. We can't solve the problem of Africa single-handedly. We need every hand on deck. Every hand needs to be on deck. And we can't do that without collaborating. So we must hold the hands of each other. We must collaborate. We must identify problems, and we must work towards solving them as a team. But then, while you're building your team, make an effort on your own, an effort that will count. Be deliberate about making that effort. I'm going to stop here for now. I'm just going to take one or two questions from, everyone on the call. If you have a question for me, you have, something I said, you want to gain more clarity about it, or you're already working on something, you're stuck somewhere, you want help, you want me to do something to help, just feel free to ask. So over to you, Patricia. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Odinaka. Please, can we comment our reactions? Because I know, we took a lot from this. It was brief, but it was powerful. Thank you so much, sir. Can we drop reactions? I think the summary of towards the end, you talked about collaboration. You dropped so much on collaboration. And I think I remember this quote that if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you go together. And we cannot overemphasize the need for collaborations in achieving, in creating solutions to a lot of problems. So thank you so much. I will take questions now. We'll take questions. I think somebody had a question earlier, Williams. So Williams, I think you want to speak because I've been asking you to comment the question, but since you want to speak, you can unmute yourself and go on, please.
My question is, said all elements echo beyond, all elements reach beyond their echo chambers. Mr. Paninga make mention of connecting with great people and making great contributions. So aside this particular one, what else can we do to reach beyond our echo chambers?
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, we've gotten that. I'm sure Paninga got that. So before we call Paninga on, we have a question for Kingsley from Facebook. Providing local data, I'm already solving problems. I think he's trying to ask that just by providing local data, does that mean he is able to solve problems? He or she is able to solve problems. Kingsley.
Faithful, thank you so much for your question. Just by contributing to local data, you are already solving the problem. This is a fact. I'll say this to you because, in the public health space, for instance, a lot of the interventions that we design are based on existing problems and existing data. So in the course of trying to come up with projects that should help address certain health challenges in certain communities in recent times, I've realized that we are unable to trace data that can keep us updated with regards to the current health situation of that community. And when we find these gaps, it becomes difficult for you to have facts and figures in the proposals that you design for such projects, right? And when you don't have facts and figures, you can't even drive policy change for such a problem in the community, right? I'll give you an instance. You, for instance, carried out a research on cancer in a particular community, and you came to the realization that, let's say a majority of the women in a particular community are going to have the tendencies to come down with cancer because they are getting exposed to maybe a radioactive substance that is a mineral resource in that community. If one is able to do a research about that radioactive substance in that community or resource, and are able to, correlate the impact of that substance to the women who go there to support their men who mine that substance, for instance, this is going to bring about a public health concern about the way people engage that, mining sites. When public health scientists, for instance, come to such a space, and they're trying to build a problem analysis, or they're trying to build a context analysis about the situation of things in that environment for a project, for a health project to be designed, they go back to search for what research has been done about this problem in the past. What did the researcher say about this problem? What is the recommendation, or what were the recommendations of this researcher? When they get these recommendations and they get these feedbacks, this is what they use in adding, to the, the context analysis that they're building, the case, for those who are for lawyers, they say the case they're building, this is what they add as facts and figures in the case that they're building. So once this has been done, this document that already has the facts and figures from your research is what will be used to, make a policy change or drive a policy change, right? Or call for a policy change for that community. So this is very, very critical. So the little research you carry out, your undergraduate research, sometimes you forget, you don't know how useful they are until you discover that someone is citing a published work that you made in your final year in the university, in one of the leading research that you're doing in Oxford, or one of the leading research that they're doing in Harvard, or in MSU, right? Or in MIT, right? So a student or a professor in Harvard University might want to do a project, for instance, in Sokoto State in Nigeria. And they are thinking about what exactly has anybody done any work at all? For those of us who are into researching, and you do a lot of publishing, or you write papers, or you are currently learning how to write papers, you understand what I'm saying. That even in developing your literature review, you must cite research that have been done in the area that you're currently researching. So imagine how happy you always become when you find a paper that has been published on the problem you're trying to address through your research. So that is what we're saying. So if there's local data on every issue across different aspects of life, it is going to be easy for an intervention to be built, because if this person is giving us a data in 2020, someone can do another research in 2023, referencing the data from 2020 and give us a more updated data in 2023 that probably might bet the solution to the problem. So you see how your local research, or how contributing to local data, can in turn create policy change and support the implementation of health interventions in communities. So it is a very critical thing that we shouldn't joke with. As a matter of fact, it is very, very critical, right? So Faithful, please confirm with me that this has helped you and that this response has been able to give you some level of clarity on the question you asked earlier. And then I would really appreciate if you have more questions. This is a moment that has been created by the Science Summer Program. So we should use the opportunity. We should use the opportunity and use it as much as we can. Okay? So, thank you so much, Faithful. I can see your confirmation in the chat. Okay? So, I think Paninga has a question to respond to. It's pending. I would allow him to do that.
Okay. Thank you very much, King, for that brilliant response. So, like Odinaka mentioned, researchers from Oxford trying to do something in Sokoto, that's them deliberately making efforts to reach beyond their environment. Because the thing is, what you know is not all there is to know. there is so much outside of your own environment, right? And if you build a product from just what you know, it's going to serve your immediate community, but it may not be globally relevant. And that's what you want to avoid. So you want to deliberately ask what is happening elsewhere. So I'm currently working on a review paper. And for several decades, people who are using crystallography have done studies on the structure of cellulose. And they believe that plant cellulose, or all cellulose, not even plant cellulose, they believe that the structure of cellulose in plants and animals have the same, what they call the I alpha and the I beta. Meanwhile, my boss is working on a different field that says that the structure of cellulose in plants is different from other organisms like algae, bacteria, or even non-plant sources generally. So, but then for decades, people who are using crystallography, for instance, have believed in that idea for decades, and it's become generally accepted. So imagine another technique comes to say that that's not completely true. It may be true in parts, but it's not completely true. So what would have happened? Just say you design something, right? And then it's not working after a while. Maybe it worked in part, but it's no longer working after a while because you didn't get the complete idea. You just held on to one technique, one concept, and you did so for too long. And everybody bought the idea. Now, I don't know how COVID vaccine was designed, right? Like, I've not had that study. I've not studied that extensively. But imagine if it is equally from that concept of using just one idea. The kind of catastrophe it's going to cause will be huge because it's going to be fed, right? It was fed to everybody, the whole part in Nigeria, Africa, everybody, it was fed. That vaccine was fed to the whole world. So if you held on to what is just within your environment and not reach beyond your environment, you're going to be developing something that could be catastrophic. Your intention may be good, but it's going to be catastrophic. So ask questions like, so this thing I'm studying, who has done something in that field from another part of the world? And you want to go read that paper. If it's the paper, you want to equally find videos, say from YouTube, for instance. And you know what? From these videos, I've seen YouTube videos that will post links to research papers. I've seen videos that may not necessarily post the links, but then they are discussing the whole concept. If you don't check, you wouldn't know. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, Pani. So, Pani, just to add a little to that powerful response that you've just given, like in the public health space right now, we have a lot of conversation about the malaria vaccine, the recently approved malaria vaccine, and where a lot of research is still currently ongoing. I was having a session recently with some pharmacists. I was discussing with them the concept for malaria vaccine development and procurement. And one of the things we're talking about is the concept of clinical trials and how clinical trials take a long period of time because diverse populations need to be tested or tried before a particular vaccine can be 100%. In fact, not most of them can be approved 70% in the what do you call it, the rating of WHO. Before the vaccine can be approved, for use upon meeting 70% efficacy. You understand? So when you've not tried this vaccine with pregnant women, for instance, as a subject enrolled in the clinical trial, you cannot, say that this vaccine is safe for pregnant women, right? When this vaccine have not been tried by children, you cannot justify that this vaccine is safe for children. So you must try diverse populations. You must try diverse populations, and this is still applicable to this conversation we're having because there's a need for what do we call it now? We say a multi-sectoral approach to solving a problem. So that concept of multi-sectorial also bet another concept we call multicultural. So you're using a multicultural approach to solving a problem, right? So you just have to find a way to ensure that you're playing your role because it's going to count. Someone somewhere in their contribution will need to harness the information you're sharing, to make the best of decisions. Okay. So I just hope that that supports in a way.
Thank you so much, Odinaka, Paninga. Thank you. So we have two more questions. Um, Thank you so much for your section, sir. I'm working on a sample for diabetic patients. I really need certain information on how to forge ahead with my research. Where will you refer me to, sir? Then the second question is, what can I do if I have identified a challenge, but some of the material needed to solve this problem is limited? I think this is directed to you, Odinaka.
Okay, thank you so much, Patricia. And then who is that question coming from, please?
Okay, the first question is anonymously. Person
Okay,
sent it anonymously. Then the second question is coming from Williams.
okay, fine. So to anonymous, participant who is asking this question, I would say that in sourcing your data, it is very critical that when carrying out a research and you're sourcing your data, that you leverage every opportunity and every platform available. What do I mean by that? We have a lot of research work that has been done and published on diabetes on the internet. So you go to places, I would recommend, reading research papers from Google Scholar as one of the sources. You can go to ResearchGate as well to search for papers. There are a lot of papers you can find. Of course, we know about how some papers can be open access, and then some papers will require you to make payment before you can access them, right? So search for as much information, research for as much information as possible before you can make a conclusion, and make sure that the information you're searching for on diabetes is as recent as possible, right? It's very critical. That is one source of information. Another source is if your research is tied to a location, you will probably want to look at the hospital facilities or any form of diabetes intervention that have been carried out in that particular environment. So for instance, there's been some form of awareness campaign being implemented by an organization and non-profit, around that environment. You might want to go discuss with them to tell them what you're doing and probably harness some data from the campaign they have carried out previously. Or there've been some what do you call it, massive testing, for blood sugar carried out by the teaching hospital or the state specialist hospital or the primary healthcare center in that community. You might want to go there to find out from the last, exercise, massive testing for blood sugar that was carried out by this hospital. What exactly were the findings? What were the results from this? You understand? One way or the other, that might have something to correlate with the data you might need for your research. Okay, so it is very important. Leverage every sources available. Then look for other researchers in that environment, other researchers who have worked on that same thing. Reach out to them even on social media and try to find out more about their work. One of the things I try to do some of the time is that when you find a research paper that you're interested in and you see, very quality information from this research paper that is useful for your own research, I try to maybe email the author or search the author on LinkedIn and drop a message. You say, hey, I read your research paper. It was amazing. This is what it did to me. This is what it did to me. And I really appreciate it. Right? I want to ask about this. I'm working on this, and that. And I think, I don't know. Is there a way? Is there any advice you can give me? Right? So those kind of efforts can pay in ways that you cannot tell. Right? So I think that is going to help. Then maybe Paninga will share some extra response to that question as well. So, but then William's question, I'm seeing what can I do if I have identified a challenge, but some of the materials needed to solve this problem is limited. Patricia, if you're going to permit me, I would want Williams to be as practical as possible so that I can respond to this question in such a way that there's going to be a permanent solution to it.
Okay, actually, the plan was to end before 9:30. It was basically supposed to be a 1 hour 30 minutes program.
Okay.
So we are already behind schedule.
Okay, fine. That's okay. So Williams, I don't know what challenge you've identified, and I don't know what materials you're needing right now to solve this problem that is limited. But you and I know that the society we live in, I can see you're from Nigeria. So you and I know that the society we're living in right now, we have a lot of scarcity of resources. As a matter of fact, it will interest you to know that Nigeria's national budgetary allocations for research is less than 3% of the Nigerian budget. Less than 3% of the entire Nigerian budget. And I don't know how many persons have received that money for research, that 3%. I can't point out to anybody right now. So let it be clear that we don't even have sufficient funding for research, right? So maybe the material you need involves finance. Right now, you can't even get because there's no local grant available right now for young people carrying out research. It's a problem. You know, undergraduates should be getting access to grants to implement undergraduate research, but then it's not even available. You need to start applying off the out of the shores of the country to to source for some of this stuff. Then I would recommend that you connect with me maybe after the call, maybe most likely by tomorrow evening, tomorrow afternoon rather, right? Connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search up my name on LinkedIn. You should find me. Send me a message on LinkedIn, and then I'm really interested in helping you out with this problem. So I've dropped you my full name, Odinaka, Kingsley, Obeta. Search me up on LinkedIn, drop me a message, and let me know that we connected from the science summer program, and I asked you to message me, right? So that we can probably chat or have a call to discuss what exactly the problem you're having is. And as someone who works in the community and has been able to leverage local resources to, create public health interventions that have worked, I think I might be able to share one or two ideas that might really make a difference in what you're doing right now. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I think this is a win for Williams. That's why we are all encouraged to ask questions. You don't know where the next big thing you're going to be doing is coming from. So thank you so much, Odinaka, for your time. We really appreciate you. And thank you also for, I know you are very busy. I know your schedule is all tight up, but thank you so much for actually agreeing, not even agreeing, for actually putting yourself out there to be used by Williams. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. This is family for me. This is home, and I don't miss home, right? So Science Summer Program is home for me. So I'm always going to show up when I need it. Support what's being done. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you. So we are done for today, and I'm sure you had enriching sections because Paninga dropped his bomb and Odinaka shattered it. So thank you so much, everybody, for staying tuned.
All right, the Kings, thank you very much for that brilliant section, and thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you so much, Pani, for having me. Thank you, everyone. A pleasure. Williams, looking forward to connecting with you.